The movie opens during a dark, stormy night where a middle-aged man named Tom Cooper is sitting in his truck, looking visibly distressed and agitated. He appears to be contemplating something serious. He then exits his truck, armed with a hammer, and forcefully breaks into a suburban house. Inside the house, Tom brutally murders his ex-wife and her new partner, and then sets the house on fire before driving away. The scene shifts to a young woman named Rachel Hunter, a single mother living in New Orleans. She gets woken up by a call from a man named Andy, who's her lawyer. He tells her that her soon-to-be ex-husband wants the house. Already drained by the ordeal, she tells him that she's tired of going up and down to court, telling Andy she wants to be over and done with the divorce. Her son Kyle rushes her to drop him off at school. He reminds her that if he's late again he'll be sent to detention. Later, Kyle watches the news and the news anchor reports on a violent incident involving the murders of Tom Cooper's ex-wife and her boyfriend. Detailing the brutal nature of the crime, Kyle listens intently to the news, possibly not fully understanding the gravity of the situation but sensing its seriousness. Rachel's brother Fred turns the news off and tells Kyle he's too young to be watching the news. Rachel walks in, clearly stressed out, juggling multiple responsibilities and financial instability. They quickly rush out of the house and get in the car. While on their way, they encounter traffic on their usual way to school. Rachel suggests she should take the highway, but Kyle refuses and Rachel tries to be patient in hopes that they'll soon get to their destination. While waiting, she helps Kyle with his spelling bees and gives him difficult words to spell. Kyle shows off his intelligence and spells the words correctly. A few minutes later, Rachel realizes that the cars aren't moving, so she decides to drive away and get to the highway. Kyle's father shortly calls and Kyle excitedly answers the phone. His dad mentions something about an upcoming event that Kyle has been looking forward to. But his dad makes an excuse to why he won't be able to follow through on the plan. Kyle responds with a disappointed and subdued tone, trying to hide his frustration. It's clear that this is not the first time his father has let him down, and Kyle is almost used to these disappointments. Rachel notices her son's disappointment and tries to console him. She reassures him that they could still have a good weekend and tries to lift his spirits. But despite Rachel's efforts, Kyle remains quiet and reflective, clearly affected by the broken promise. As Rachel drives, she approaches more traffic. Her phone rings and it's her boss. She scolds Rachel for being late again and unfortunately fires her. Adding more stress to her life, she tries to remain calm in front of Kyle. She decides to take the next exit in order to get Kyle to school. As she approaches a pickup truck, the driver fails to drive off even though the traffic lights turn green. Rachel honks at him but he still doesn't move. She gets annoyed and drives past him. Unfortunately, she approaches more traffic. The driver pulls up next to Rachel at another red light and tries to apologize, asking her to return the courtesy by apologizing back. But Rachel refuses and Tom promises to make her day a living hell from now on. Realizing that the driver is mentally unstable, she quickly drives off. Tom starts following Rachel, making her and Kyle increasingly nervous. He engages in a dangerous cat and mouse chase, showcasing his unhinged behavior. Rachel finally gets Kyle to school and he makes her promise to be early next time and gets out of the car. Before driving off, she calls Andy and tells him about her messed up day, also mentioning how she also got into it with a crazy driver. Andy tells her they should meet up for breakfast within 20 minutes. Later, Rachel decides to stop at a gas station. She gets out and refuels her car. She then gets in the store and takes out money from her account. As she's about to get out, she notices Tom's truck waiting outside. Her face turns pale and the cashier asks if she's well. She explains her situation and tells the lady that the man in the truck has been following her. A young gentleman offers to accompany her out. As they get out, Tom's demeanor becomes more threatening. As she drives off, the young man gets in front of his truck and warns Tom not to follow Rachel. Clearly not threatened by him, Tom drives through the young man and chases after Rachel. He tailgates her, honks his horn, and drives recklessly. Rachel tries to lose Tom by taking different routes and driving faster. She begins panicking as she realizes the severity of the situation. As Tom drives next to her, he shows her that he's got her phone. She quickly tries losing him by driving through a one-way street, almost bumping into a lady. Meanwhile, by going through Rachel's phone, Tom arrives to the diner and introduces himself to Andy. He lies and says he's a friend of Rachel. Tom convinces Andy to call Rachel by using his phone. Andy realizes there's something off about Tom and tries taking his phone back but gets hit with a cup. Tom demands Rachel to tell him that she's sorry. She apologizes but Tom tells her she's late now. He then assumes that she's sleeping with her lawyer. Clearly his divorce with his wife has messed him up mentally, that he's taking it out on Rachel. Seeing Rachel's divorce as a reminder of what he went through, he murders Andy in front of witnesses and tells Rachel that she's next, then walks out. Later, Fred is seen watching the news broadcast that covers recent violent events, highlighting the ongoing violent spree of Tom Cooper. He calls on his girlfriend to come check the news but she doesn't respond. He decides to look for her in their bedroom only to see the pickup truck they spoke of in the news. He cautiously approaches the room and Tom appears behind him holding his girlfriend hostage. He tells Fred that Rachel disrespected him earlier and now he wants to teach her a lesson. He slowly approaches Fred and pushes his girlfriend towards him, mistakenly stabbing her. Elsewhere, Rachel drives to her son's school and quickly gets him in the car. They drive off and she calls Tom to tell him that she's on her way there with her son. She begs Tom to let go of her brother but Tom refuses and says she has to get there to save him. A few minutes later, a police officer gets in the room and demands Tom to show him his hands. Tom lights Fred up and tries escaping. The officer shoots at him but he gets away. Hearing her brother's screams, Rachel stops her car and vomits on the side of the road. Tom shortly calls again and tells her that her brother is no longer alive. He tells her he's now going to murder her son. Out of pain and frustration she breaks his phone and tells Kyle they should go to the police station. While driving, they use her tablet to find her phone, only for them to realize that her device is next to them. As they look around, it becomes evident that Tom is in the car in front of them. They try asking the officer for help but Tom causes an accident that leads to the officer's death. Rachel decides to drive to her mother's house to hopefully lose him, but Tom is still hot on their trail as they try getting away. Eventually they lose Tom for a couple of minutes. Meanwhile he carefully drives through the neighborhood looking for their car. Eventually he finds Rachel's car parked. As he was about to get out, Rachel drives through him, hoping she'd done some damage to him, only for Tom to appear behind her and knock her out. As he walks into the house looking for Kyle, he hears a rustling sound upstairs and goes to check, only to find Rachel trying to hide her son. He drags her out and beats her up. He then drags Kyle but Rachel gets up and fights back, but unfortunately they're both no match for Tom. Rachel gets her scissor and fatally stabs Tom in the eye. A few minutes later, the police get there and take their statements. An officer approaches and tells Rachel that her brother is alive. They decide to go visit him in hospital. As they leave, Rachel almost gets into an accident and holds herself from honking at the driver. Make sure to like and subscribe for more notifications. Until next time, see you soon.